What's good, fam? It's Mr. Kelly with Good to the Hood, talking about anything and everything that impacts the culture. And this is, let's just say, a relaunch, because I haven't made a video in quite some time. I'm going to be going a little bit of a different direction than I was before. I'll be talking about some topics here and there that impact the culture, but one of the biggest things that's impacted the culture through the years is the mixtape. As far as music's concerned, nothing has had a greater impact than mixtapes. Now, mixtapes were originally, from what I read, originally started like in the 70s. It's really when it gained popularity a little bit. But I'm not really familiar with that because I'm not quite that old. But I am familiar with how it started and what kind of impact it had from the 80s on forward from there. So that's kind of what we're going to do. So what is a mixtape? This generation, I don't really think understands what a mixtape is. But if you're in my generation, Gen X, you absolutely understand the importance of a mixtape. So when I was younger, right, a lot of times what you would do is you would get a cassette tape, one of these, okay? A lot of y'all may not be familiar with the old school cassette tape. You get one of these, right? And you would put music on there, of course, that you probably recorded off the radio. If not off the radio, then if you had some friends or whatever, you get a song off this cassette and you put it on and you get a song from here and so on and so forth. And you basically made literally a tape with mixed music. Maybe it's from different genres, or maybe it's the same genre, but it's different artists, right? So, you have a song on there with, from Bobby Brown, and then maybe you throw somebody else on there, maybe New Edition when they were a group, and then you get, another hot song that was going on then, and so on and so forth. And it gained big popularity because then you would start using mixtapes and making mixtapes to give to maybe somebody that you were interested in. All the guys I knew, we would make these mixtapes, right, with maybe some slow jams or what have you, and you would give it to a girl. And each song would kind of say in music what you couldn't or were too embarrassed to, or whatever the case may be, right? And so that was kind of my initial how would you say, understanding of mixtapes, right? Now, when I lived in Texas years ago, there was a store where it had a huge music catalog, right? And you could actually go in and purchase each song for like 50 cents or $1 to put on a cassette. And I actually found one of these, and it says, made by the Personics system, especially for, right? And you'd have it, and then you could put whatever name here, you would title it whatever, you wanted to your little mixtape. And that's the mixtape that you would actually either keep for yourself or, give to somebody. But back in the day, man, that was revolutionary. I only saw that store in Texas. I never saw them anywhere else, but I thought that was great, man. They were just selling songs to put on cassette. And you got to realize this is a bigger deal than maybe some of y'all may realize, because this is before any type of ringtones. This is before you could purchase any of that on the internet. Like, the internet was not even really a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, in the 80s, it wasn't really where you could stream music and you could do all this kind of stuff, whatever. Like, there was no Napster, there was no LimeWire, there was none of that. So you would create your own music to listen to, or your own soundtrack, that way. You could purchase a song like I did in Texas, or you listen to the radio, or, whatever. And so that was a big deal. There's a movie actually on Netflix called Mixed by Erry, E-R-R-Y, and it's based on a true story, and it's actually about these brothers that created their own piracy enterprise with mixtapes, and they did it from the 70s to the 90s. Like, they were just running it. It's a good movie, right? Now, the music that they were listening to in that part of the world, I guess at that time, in that community or whatever, I think it was like in Italy, and it was a lot of there's a lot of rock and roll type music and some dance music and that kind of thing. But it became a big deal because they were essentially, quote unquote, stealing money from the artists and from the labels and the distribution companies and all of that, because all these guys were doing was just getting all this music, and they were mass producing these mixtapes, and then they were just selling them, just selling them. And I actually know some guys that actually did that later on, right? So that's kind of how it started when it was actual cassettes. But then the CD era changed the game incredibly. And I personally really liked the mixtape era once CDs came out, right? And I actually had quite a few of them. Kind of what encouraged me to make this particular video is I was cleaning up, as you know, my messy office here and some empty boxes and trying to streamline my life and what have you. I came across a box of these mixtapes, right? And so mixtapes, as far as the hip hop community is concerned, man, look, these are just some of them, but these are all mixtapes, right? Okay, and a lot of times mixtapes at this point were used by up and coming artists, right? And it was to maybe showcase some of these new up and coming hip hop artists. Maybe sometimes the producers or the DJs, maybe collaboratively both. Because a lot of times what happened is they would take a beat that, an instrumental that was already hot, that was mainstream, that was from an artist that was doing big things right now actively. And then they would put their own verses on top of it, right? Sometimes what some of the DJs would do is they would take the verses of an artist that's hot, like say at the time, say Chameleonaire, right? And they would put those verses over a beat, like let's say a mixed up beat that was used and made popular by say 50 Cent, right? So now it sounds like you got Chameleonaire spitting over a 50 Cent beat, right? And then the DJ is going to mix in maybe some other samples or some other artists or whatever, and it's just going to be something that you're just never going to hear on the radio. It's going to be something that doesn't appear on either one of those artists' actual CDs, right, that they're selling. A lot of times it could be a hot beat that has somebody freestyling, and that individual that's freestyling over that beat could be some brother that's local and that's trying to up and come, or it even could be somebody that's already established, but he's just going to spit a little bit on somebody else's beat. Like it's something that you couldn't get and wouldn't hear on the radio. Something that you would maybe hear in the club if you're lucky. And so, look, through the years, I was always buying these. I was always buying mixtapes because it was music that you wouldn't hear nowhere else. And when I would travel, I spent a lot of time in Dallas, but I lived in Denver. So a lot of times when I'd go down south, I'd pick up some mixtapes down there, listen to them when I got back home, because nobody locally had it, right? And they'd be like, oh, who's this? Who's that? Right? Especially back then when I was growing up in the 90s, you had your car. Systems were a big deal. Like, I don't really see this younger generation getting into it like that. And by systems, I mean music system in your car. So, you'd have 212s. Maybe you'd have a Rockford Fosgate amp pushing them 212s, right? You'd have an EQ, you'd have, your separates, you'd have your tweeters, and you have your speakers in your. It was a big deal, and we would go cruising and we'd hang out, and you'd drive, and you could just hear somebody's bass coming out of their car, and they might be like 2 blocks away, right? And you pull up next to somebody, and the bass is so heavy that your mirror is shaking, right? And what better way to floss than to have a mixtape with music that sounds good that nobody else had? So, like this one right here, and look, this is from years ago, so like, all of these are probably 12, 15, 20 years old, right? It's 2025 right now. I mean, so people weren't really doing it like that currently, right? So this one right here, this is, what does it say? Presented by Anna Music, Casanova DeVille, right? I believe that's out of Texas, right? Who's this? DJ Beds, right? Local DJ that was here in Colorado. This one was Party to Go, Volume 11, hosted by Flo Rida and DJ Felly Fell. And another big thing about these is the music wouldn't necessarily be a full 4 or 5 minute song, right? I mean, they would just play it to where, it'd be popping for like maybe a minute or two, right? And then they go into the next track and go into the next track, and they just blend it right in and segue right into the next one. Like this right here, I mean, this has got 54 tracks on it. 54 tracks, that's crazy, right? So that's one there. Here's another one, what's this? Gangland something or other. I don't even know where I got this one. Black Noble Entertainment. It's got 50 on it, right? Who's this one? DJ Jelly and MC Assault, Southern. You know, they're from down south. Actually, hey, look, they had one that was super dope, right? That I know I have somewhere. DJ Quote, he's another big one, right? This is the Embassy with Young Mac, right? And sometimes it'd be guys that are just trying, you know, they're out of New York, from out of New York. They're with they used to be real close to MC Jen, who I had the privilege of interviewing probably about a year or two ago, if you want to look through there and kind of see that interview. But anyway, look, these are just a whole bunch of mixtapes, right, from just through the years, right? And so I was doing some more looking. I mean, like I said, that's probably what, maybe 20 or so in there. And they would have like some, you know, they would have some of the artwork, right? So you'd have your CD, and then you'd pop it open, and that come out would be, you know, maybe some artwork, whoever the artist is. Then on the other side it'd be the same thing, and you know, they'd have their tracks listed or whatever. This one, yeah, they actually have their actual pictures, but you know, like you saw on some of those other ones, it would be, you know, maybe some artwork done by you know, whoever, whatever, but it would be something that was kind of eye-catchy, maybe some graffiti on there, maybe some caricatures, you know, bright colors sometimes, what have you. But as I was looking, I found out that I had a whole bunch of other other CDs that are all mixtapes. There's like 50 in here, and these are, some of these are burned from homeboys, or sometimes guys would hand them out like at the you know, at the let out at a club or whatever. These are just all CDs, right? It's crazy, just all CDs. And there was a guy in my neighborhood that would sell CDs also, and so, you know, sell mixtapes, and of course I would buy a couple. So I have all of these CDs, mixtapes. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to drop one of these mixtapes in its entirety. No interruptions, no me talking, no none of that. I'm gonna try to drop a show every Thursday about 2 p.m. Every Thursday about 2 p.m. And I'm just gonna drop it. And the music you're gonna get from this, you're not gonna get it nowhere else, because we're not talking traditional CDs. Okay? We're not talking traditional tapes. We're not talking stuff that you can just go to Amazon, Spotify, Tidal, or wherever you get your music from, and just listen to it. So it's going to be interesting to see how this takes up. But I'm trying to do it every week. So every week you can come to this station, get music that you're not going to hear nowhere else. And look, it's primarily going to be hip hop, right? The vast majority is going to be hip hop. Sometimes there's going to be a little bit of R&B in there, and I even was looking through some of it, and I got gospel mixtapes, right? Where it's just a whole lot of gospel music in the mixtape format. And so let's go ahead and throw that on there. So please subscribe, please like, please tell me what you think in the comments, and let's just see what we can do. And I just want to just throw this music out here. I haven't done any of this music, right? So I can't be credited with any of it. All I'm doing is putting it here on YouTube so we can all listen to it, and we can all bump the music that you're just not going to find everywhere. So until next time, this is Mr. Kelly with Good to the Hood. Peace.